Yeah, okay, time to live free. Plenty goals I'm achieving. Some real life topics and talking financial freedom. Mindset, soul and love, everything in between. This is Freedom Podcast. Tune in, live free. Hey, got my mindset right and I got the drive. Planning one day, no more job, no more 9 to 5. Love, money, mind. Love, money, mind. This is freedom. Tune in, cause it's going down. Woo!
Hi, this is Anna and welcome to another episode of Your Freedom Podcast. In this episode, I interview Nichole Lee. Nichole is an identity and life transition coach. You're going to absolutely love this episode as she explains her story and how she can help you make life shifts with greater clarity and confidence and renewed sense of purpose. You're going to love this episode. So, hi Nichole, great to have you on the show.
Hey, Anna, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
So I haven't even asked you, actually. I know that you're in the US, but I don't know whereabouts. You've got a bit of a Dallas accent. Am I right?
Oh, this is so hilarious. So I am based in Atlanta, Georgia, but I'm originally from Detroit and I've lived in Florida and California. I have an affinity to the South, so I think I just picked up a little bit extra twang.
Yeah. Well, us Brits, you see, we just love Dallas, the program.
But I get it a lot that people think I'm from the South, and when I say the Midwest, they're so confused. So
yeah, well, it's great. So whereabouts are you living at the moment? Sorry, where did you?
Yeah, in the Atlanta area.
Okay, yeah, brilliant.
Atlanta, Georgia.
I just love how this podcast has been. It's enabled me to connect with so many amazing people globally. I toyed with the idea of having like one of these really professional studios, you know, that you can hire. But I thought actually I wouldn't be able to reach the people that I have reached already, you know, on the podcast. So I'm so glad I kept it on like a virtual one rather than actually having it in a studio, because it just would have been all the British people. So it's great to connect with you.
Yeah, I love that too. Because to your point, I would have never connected with you. And I mean, at the end of the day, we all need to be connected. So I'm glad that you decided to do that. And I'm glad I have the opportunity to be on your podcast virtually.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you are a life transition and also identity coach, because I know we were talking about that before we click record. So I'm really curious to hear how this all began, really. Like, how did you get to this point? How did it all begin? I know you may want to tell me some of your personal or life story or business story, but
yeah,
feel free to go back as far as you want to. But how did it all start?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was certified as what they call a personal and executive coach, or a life coach and executive coach, in 2015 as part of being in the consulting world. So I worked in business management consulting for 20 years, helping companies with change and transformation. And as part of that, I was a leader, part of a practice. And so I said, hey, it'd be great to get more skills around understanding people, coaching people, supporting people. So that's how I kind of got into more the formal coaching component, and actually started doing that part-time while I was still in consulting. Fast forward to 2018, my mother was diagnosed with cancer and had a rapid decline. So my mother passed within 4 months of her diagnosis. Wow. At that point in time, I was her caretaker. I experienced a lot of trauma that I truly understand more now than I did then, being part of a caretaker, seeing that decline, going through such a major shift of having a healthy mother to a very unhealthy one, and losing her. And that really shifted me. A lot changed for me. I was literally not the same person. And a lot of people say that. I could feel it physically and I could feel it spiritually. And so with her passing over the past few years after that, I was just going back and forth, just trying to figure out what my new normal is, which is very common for people who have lost a loved one, and even, you know, lost a job or something like that, just really trying to find your new normal. And then I really had what I call an activation, a divine message from my mother, to quit my job. I was in a meditation and all I heard was quit your job, right? And something to the fact of there's something more for you. I can't recall exactly. I think it was either something more for you or you're going to help other people. She did tell me before she passed that I was going to help people heal and help change people's lives. And so with that, I listened to it, I heard it, and within, I would say, weeks, I decided to quit my job. I ended up consulting with my previous employer for a few months and then literally took the leap of faith into this work. I had no clue exactly what I was going to do. I just knew that there was a greater calling on my life and what I was doing was no longer it. So I went on a self-discovery journey. I went into healing work. I became obsessed with holistic health and wellness. So I became certified as a health coach. Actually, before I left, I became certified as a health coach. I'm a multi-modality energy healer, hypnotherapist, etc. And so through that process, I also recognized some of my other gifts, right? Even from a spiritual aspect, that now has fast forwarded me into being an identity and life transition coach and a holistic practitioner that also has divine intuitive gifts in how I serve and support my clients.
Yeah, love it, love it, love it. And I think what I've realised actually from this podcast, because I put this together when I went through a really difficult time, like coming out the other side, I wanted to kind of give back. It wasn't, there was, when I put this whole thing together, there was no intention for it to be anything to do with my business or money or anything like that. I just knew that when I was in a dark place, there was certain YouTubers really that I followed. I've always been someone that was into self-development and growth, but and podcasts weren't as big in 2015 as they are now. So it was mainly like YouTube channels, but it was just like, I just wanted to give back. And I just think that by sharing our stories is really powerful, just because, you know, this day and age, everything on social media is like this perfection all the time. And I think when you do go through a kind of, like you say, transitional life, identity kind of crisis journey, you can go quite into yourself and insular, and it's like terrible when you're just looking at everybody else and feeling like, you know, why me? Or, you know, and everybody else's life is perceived as being perfect. And that was why I wanted to put this together, to show people that actually there's all of these people that have gone through it, but then come through the other side and actually had like purpose and meaning in their life now. And that sometimes those things that happen can actually be a bit of a wake-up call. But it was just my purpose of just giving back. And actually, as it's developed, you know, I now get quite a lot of leads and people get to know me and things like that, but it's never really been the intention of how it all started. And I can't remember why I was going to say that now, because you said something that really...
Well, can I just say how much I love that and how much that is so heart focused, and I appreciate and honor you in doing that and being of service and recognizing, to your point, that like through our stories, we can find sometimes ourselves that gives us a sense of faith and hope that before that story we may not have had. And I so appreciate that you recognizing that and creating a platform serves in that way, right? And I do think that many of us in service-based businesses have to balance that, because if the intention is to serve, the intention is to give, is the intention is to help with healing, we need to make sure that we're leading with that and recognize that it'll already have an effect, to your point, in our business opportunities, etc. Because that's just a natural, progression, right?
Yeah. It's working, isn't it?
Yeah, that would just naturally happen. So I love that.
I think I've just remembered.
Yay, I sparked it.
Yeah, you helped me, so thank you. Is that basically by doing all of this podcast, what has been great is it has helped my healing journey as well. What has been really interesting, and I never expected that, you know, what has been really interesting is everybody that I've interviewed, there are patterns that you can pick up on it, and you know this from the work that you do. Because there was something you said about, like, when you go through like grief, or you losing someone you love, or losing a job. I felt some of that in like the breakdown of my marriage, and I think a lot of people do. It's like you're going through a bit of a grieving thing, you know,
Yes.
even though that person is still alive, even though I was at one point hoping he wasn't. It was so
Well, it can definitely feel like that. Yes, for sure.
that wasn't the, obviously that isn't the love that I want to give out in the world, but frustration on that journey. And I think that, I've interviewed people who've gone through addictions and all sorts of different things, and there's certain, like, it's like patterns of when people go through that. It's the trauma,
Hmm.
isn't it? It's going through the trauma. And I think I'd like to commend you, because I think when you have gone through something and actually you create that to be your purpose of giving back, especially through that calling or message that you heard
Thank you.
from your mom, that you've actually, because sometimes people can go through things and they just, it's not any, like, I don't mean this in any horrible way to that person, but to be able to find strength and purpose through that pain,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
is really commendable, I think.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
nice
you so
to
much.
hear that, on your journey.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And there's a few things that you said too, that this element of grief, I think that we naturally many times attribute it, to your point, to losing a loved one. And grief is any element that we can have, that in any element of loss, and I think similarly, going through this journey of exploration and self-discovery, not only was I grieving my mother, right? I started, when I took the leap, I grieved an experience, a past, a comfort zone that I had in corporate America for 20 years, right?
Yeah,
Like, that was still a loss. And I think, like you were saying, that sometimes we even will attribute to a quote unquote negative thing. Like, that was a beautiful thing that I was moving into this, but I still had grief because it was still a loss of something that I was tied to.
yeah.
Right. So
And the
even when it,
identity, it's the identity.
yeah, it's still an identity thing. So I think that's the other thing for anyone who's listening, is recognizing that there can, what I call, and actually a good friend of mine says, you can have grief and gratitude, right? Like, we often just think of the grief side or the negative, but moving to a new place, if you're someone who now wants to venture out, moving to a new location can be exciting and you can be so grateful for the opportunity, but you can also grieve the fact that you're no longer in that town or connected to your people or whatever the case is. You can be excited about being a parent and still have a grieving element that now you're no longer an individual, or you're getting married and now you're sharing with this. And this is why I did go into the work of life transitions, because I think sometimes we're not really given the opportunity to really sit with all that's happening as a result of a transition, even if it's one that we find to be positive.
Yeah,
There's still elements of that, of going through it, that might pop up even later as a result of not really sitting with all the emotions, all the experiences, all the things that are going to change as a result of that occurring,
is
you
that
know?
change part, isn't it, really?
Yes. And even though we know that's the most constant thing in life, still as humans, it's challenging for us, even the ones who know how to go through the change. We're still human beings. And so we still have to navigate that. And then the thing that you mentioned, I appreciate you recognizing the strength on my side. I will say too that there was a tugging that I could not go back. And that's why I share more of the spiritual side of things. I consider myself a soulpreneur, which means that I feel my soul was called to do this work. And so even in the moments that I wanted to quit, I had to move forward. So there was a part of me that made a decision that I could not go back. And I believe that that part of me was the spiritual side of it, not the human side of it. Because
Yeah.
the human side of me would say, you know what? It is so much easier to go back to corporate America, get your consistent,
Like the head
paycheck.
and the heart thing, isn't it?
Yeah, the head and the heart thing. So I just wanted to share that too, where everyone's kind of experience of how they build that courage and go through that was a spiritual thing for me. And then it was really important to have an appropriate support system. I became much more intentional of the individuals that were in my circle to help me stay courageous. Sometimes it was borrowing their courage to
Mm,
keep moving forward. And
yeah.
so that's something I think sometimes we don't consider, is that who we have around us, especially with those transitions, are really, really important. And we may need them in a different way than we thought we did before.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep.
So I know you know that my podcast called Your Freedom Podcast, and I did really
Yes.
toy with that name. So my head was
Mhm.
saying, "Don't do it."
I love it. I love that you just make stuff happen.
So my head was saying don't do it because we see lots of things online associated with money, or maybe I was just making that assumption.
Okay.
You see things like, freedom in 90 days, you are now going to be earning this amount of money, especially in America, so you'll see this a lot. Thinking of sort of like the Grant Cardone type, advert.
Yes.
Like that.
Love those ads that if you're on Instagram, you see every 4 posts.
Exactly. So my head kept saying, no, don't go with that. But I kept coming back, like my heart, my soul, everything kept coming back to freedom because that was how I was feeling. And then I had the 3 pillars I often talk about, which is freedom in love, freedom in money, and freedom in mind. And the reason I talk about those is those are the 3 things that have given me sort of equilibrium on my journey. Because the love aspect isn't really romantic love. It's more like the love, the self-care, self-love, really. When one of them was out of balance, and the thing is, we can't get, I kind of don't like that word balance because we can never
I
get.
don't either. We get in some kind of harmony, we get in connection, but the whole scale being right at,
Because
I don't know.
sometimes you might be focusing on loads of self-love and self-care.
Right.
Other times, I might be like, I know you recently reached out and you wanted to come on a book masterclass, like, you might be on a book launch or something like that. That, my focus was that. And then obviously mindset, I might be doing somewhere. So sometimes there are just different focuses that you have. But I suppose the reason why I talk about the 3 pillars and the balance is that sometimes if one's dominating or one you're not looking after yourself and things like that, it's just having that awareness, really.
Right.
But those are the 3 things that have sort of given me a bit of equilibrium on my journey. And I don't really like the word mindset either, but it just fitted with the love, money, and mind, I've got to say. Because mind or mindset doesn't do it justice on what I mean, because it's deeper than that, like the spiritual side of it. And for me, it's just about not feeling like we have to be positive all the time. We know, if I'm having a bad day, or we don't know what our future holds with other things, external things that can happen in our path. But I feel now that I've got the right toolkit, the right awareness to allow myself to kind of be, it's fine, I'm going through something, but I'll get through this and come out the other side and not feel that I'm going to be positive, because that was probably my biggest challenge. I was like, I'm fine, and actually I wasn't.
Right.
So I know that about myself now. And so I just wondered, people who are listening to this with you and your expertise of not just your own personal story, but the people you've helped in your business, for someone that could be listening to this right now, and right in that depth of despair, do you have anything that you could maybe share with them? Thinking of what I was saying about I've got these 3 pillars, is there anything that you could think could be their first steps to getting the support or the help or what they need to do? Anything at all that comes to mind?
Yeah. And I love that I love that you created those pillars, and it still helps ground people, right? Even though they might shift differently or we have different perspectives. And I would say that each, as we know, we're similar as humans, but we're different in our experiences. And so I would say that, someone deep in their despair, there are different experiences that people will need to help them come out of that. And that's the thing I've learned, not only with myself, but also helping clients and even friends. The one thing I will say that I feel, and this is just a feeling that I would like to share, is that honoring what happened to you or the events that transpire that may have brought you to the place that you're in. The reason why I say that is many times we've even seen the outside world is everything is just get over it, get through it. If you've had a few therapy sessions, maybe you should have already gotten through it. You've shared it with 3 or 4 friends. Why am I still in this hole? Why am I still feeling this way? And I don't think that people always have the opportunity to literally just say what happened to them. Just express it. Just being able to find a safe space to express it. That could be, is there one person in your life that you do trust, that you feel will create that safe space, that will not judge you, that will allow you to express all the things that more than likely you're holding on to that are creating that level of heaviness in your life? If you don't feel that you have someone in your life that can do that, and you're resistant to, say, therapy or even reaching out to a coach, there are different, depending on where you live around the world, there are crisis type hotlines. There are ones that you can even text where you don't have to talk and call someone. The one in the US I used to be part of, and just being able to release that with someone who is a trained professional to acknowledge you, to give you the space, and to support you and potentially provide the resources that you may not be able to have available to you, I think is another place to start. Many times we feel that we're alone, and just like with this podcast was so beautiful of what you've done is the more we can feel that we're not alone, the more I feel that there's an element of hope and opportunity for our lives.
Yeah.
So if you can extend yourself to find that one person that reminds you you're not alone, that what you're going through is natural.
Exactly.
Because it is. That's the big thing too.
I think that is the big thing, because
it is natural. You are not alone. Many of this is the other thing that I think has been helpful even on my journey is many of this is scientifically based. We were not taught about the intelligence of our bodies. We were not taught about the communication channels between our mind and our heart, just like we were talking about. So when you don't understand that, you will automatically, based on the outside world, think you're crazy, right? Or think something's wrong with you. But when you understand and have a level of awareness that something happened to me, it actually altered something in my body, how I think, how I see safety, how I connect with people, then I also can feel a sense of empowerment because I know something naturally is happening to keep me safe. Now I can try to extend myself to figure out what that looks like for me to help heal and come out of it. So I know that was a bit long-winded. I hope that was helpful, but it was that combination of having someone, but also understanding these are natural things that are happening within our human construct or body that this suit that we've been put in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's really helpful and that's what I always want to do on this podcast is like for people who could be, because I often get people, like when you launch a new project, you get sort of friends or followers, people that support you, and they'll go, oh yeah, it's great, but when you get complete strangers reach out, well, I say strangers, they sound like horrible people, but
like people you don't know, a new connection,
but a new connection reach out and just say it. This episode really helped me, so thank you for putting it together. That just really fills my heart, because that was the whole intention of putting it together in the first place. So I think it's always really important to because when we're on this journey as well, sometimes it's difficult to really think back on that in the, like you say, the depths of despair, where you, a lot of the time you might be just listening to stuff you might come across this and actually, what are those, I wish someone had said stuff to me, I was thinking, I'm fine, but then I was waking up with hot sweats, and having bizarre dreams and all this thing that was happening in my subconscious, when actually I was telling everybody and pretending to myself, my conscious, that I was fine. So I think it's just really important to talk about or give guidance for people who are right in the middle of something, whatever that is.
Yeah. And I just, to the point that you made too, is that this feeling of being vulnerable and sharing what's really happening in our lives can be difficult for various reasons, right? We could have had situations where we were vulnerable and it didn't work out well for us, right? Or where I find with sometimes my clients, they're the ones that are supposed to always be strong. They're the ones who are keeping everyone else going. So this pressure or heaviness to be that, or just wherever you are, you're concerned that I've also found that by releasing that, you're afraid that you'll go even deeper, right? There's all different reasons for that. The thing that I would also say that I think is amazing with you too, is that you recognize at some point you needed to express that. And the way we express may be differently. I mentioned connecting with someone. It could be through working out. It could be through other things to allow some of that energy to come out that you may not be able to vocally express. So that's the other thing as well. And the last thing I would say too is I would invite and encourage to not give up, and continue to seek out people who will listen, people who will create a safe space for you. There is someone, and sometimes we have to, it's kind of like the when it talks about relationships, kissing the frog to get to the prince. I don't know if you've ever heard that, right? Like sometimes it's like that on our healing journeys. Like I had a few frogs that didn't work out well. In my process of trying to find the right fit in my own healing journey, but I didn't give up because there was something in me that says there is going to be someone who gets me, who understands me, who's going to create that safe space. And so I would just, encourage someone who may be in that experience, that it's like, I can't one more time, right? It is honoring that may be traumatizing and you may need to sit with that and get a comfort level. I would never invite anyone to do what's outside of what's honoring them. It's recognizing though that there is someone, and whenever that feels right to you, to maybe take that additional step forward to seek out that person. I just don't want anyone to give up because
exactly.
there is someone who is aligned to you that's looking for you just as much as you're looking for them.
And it also might be that right now you don't want to, there doesn't feel like there's someone aligned, and it might be that actually nobody is right now.
Right. For sure. Like I was saying, you do have to honor yourself. Yeah,
exactly. So
yeah,
it might be just that you're not ready right now, but along the way, there'll be a moment in time where you are ready and someone is right to reach out to. So like you say,
for sure.
Don't give up, because each day can be different as well.
Yeah, and I love that you said that, the balancing, right? It is honoring where you are, while also what came to me is just keeping that little flame lit just a little bit, the little glimmer of hope. But recognizing it might not be a bonfire right now, right? You may not have that full drive to move forward. Just recognizing that there is somebody who's there for you and who will listen to you and honor you and support you in your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that. So tell us then how people might be listening to this and might be thinking, hey, this Nichole lady, I'm loving her southern accent, her southern twang.
Whatever this is,
perfect to support me. How do you help people then? How do you, within your business and stuff, like how can people reach out and how do you help them?
Yeah, so how I help is from an individual basis. I have different offerings for one-on-one support. That's everything from one session. Those are typically tied to individuals just wanting to get more clarity on what their life transition looks like, and just having a bit of clarity on what that might look like, and having another person that they can brainstorm with in a session. I also offer what I call more half-day immersive sessions. So if individuals want to kind of compress some time and also just go deeper, I offer those as well. And then I have longer term support, which is kind of the typical model, 6 to 18 months, maybe the coaching and healing type programs. From organizations, I do wellness and health and wellness advisory and consulting. So if you're looking to expand your health and wellness protocols, kind of look through what that looks like, I offer that as well. And I have a retreat coming up in December for women. It's It's called the Receive Retreat. So many times we're doing a lot of giving and we're not really focused on receiving without an expectation of return. So I have that retreat is occurring in Costa Rica, December 16th through the 21st. And it is about receiving love, clarity, joy, and growth.
Nice.
For the new year. And then I'm in the process of writing a book. So I'm going to fingers crossed and toes crossed, but the plan is to publish that book in December as well. It's called Who Are You? And it's a practical guide of transforming your life through self-discovery. So everything we've talked about is gaining self-discovery. It's integrating some of the Western, Eastern modalities and a bit of my story. And how to connect with me is I'm on LinkedIn. I am Nichole Lee, and I'm sure it'll be in the show notes. I'm Nichole with an H.
Everything
Yeah, everything in the
will
show notes. So LinkedIn, I am Nichole Lee. Instagram, I am Nichole Lee, and we'll share an email as well in the show notes for people to connect with me if they like.
Yeah, love it, love it, love it. So yeah, everything for everybody that's watching us, hello. On YouTube or in my Facebook group, you'll be able to see in the comments or in the section of YouTube with all Nichole's details. And obviously, if you're listening to us on any of the podcasting channels, you'll be able to see that in the show notes as well. So yeah, it's been great connecting with you, and I'm going to check out your retreat. I love retreats. Every year I say I'm going to do a retreat. But this year I'm doing a book, kind of book straight workshop retreat.
Beautiful.
So it's kind of not the full retreat that I was planning. We have got hypnotherapy, we've got yoga, but I think sometimes when you do write something, whatever it is, I'm actually writing a script for film at the moment as well.
Awesome.
You've got to like get in this, like, they talk about writer's block, don't they? But if you go away somewhere different and you kind of with a group of people, it's like sometimes if I go to Starbucks, sometimes I go to Starbucks and I see everybody there with laptops and I feel like I've got to work. And I can't just Skype. Whereas when I'm at home, I give myself excuses. So I think the sort of thing of, you're going away to write, so you're going to have to kind of get into that vibe. So I'm looking forward to that. That's in September, but I'm going to definitely do my full-on retreat at some point.
Yes, that is wonderful. Yeah, you're so right. Like getting in the energy and the vibe of others that are being productive is so helpful. And I find the same thing, especially when you're working from home quite a bit, that being just in the energy of others can helps you break through the blocks that you have.
Exactly. Suddenly you feel all this stuff.
You're like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So, yeah, but it's been fab connecting with you. I always ask everybody, and we're coming up to our birthday episode soon as well. And where what we do on the birthday is we chop the answers to this question.
Oh, okay.
Here, not all of the episodes, but we grab a handful of episodes and we hear them back to back. It's quite an interesting question because obviously there's no right or wrong. So, what does freedom mean to you, Nichole?
Freedom means to me to be all that I was designed to be.
Nice.
To be expansive in all elements of my life.
Yeah, I like that. I really like that. You see, I love this question. Right? Each time I hear everybody's answer, like, I like that. I like that. I love them all because everybody shows me a different perspective to it.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
And I also
I'm
think
free.
it changes, doesn't it? Like probably what we would have asked you maybe pre-2018 would have been a lot different than now.
Oh, for sure. And I think too, for me, I had not experienced freedom. I think many times we may think that we're free in a space. It's no different than being exposed to something else where you thought that was the thing, or you thought it even happens in relationships, right? You could be in a great relationship and then you get a new one. You're like, oh, wow, like this is what I was really looking for, right? That's that growth, that evolution. And I look at my life very similarly. I now know what freedom means to me because I'm living it. Like, so yes, you're absolutely right. What I would have said before, I had no concept or context of what I'm experiencing now to know that I'm free. And it is literally to be me. Like that is my calling and that's the plan. And so if I'm doing that, then I'm free.
Yeah, love it. Love it. And obviously in your work as well, you're encouraging everybody else to do exactly that. So
Yes,
love
for
that.
sure.
I love that. So it's been great to connect with you. We'll stay in touch. Want to see your book. And for people who, have been inspired by Nichole, go and check her out on all the socials. Obviously, everything's in the show notes or the comment section. You can reach out to her. Go and check out her Receive retreat as well in December. And we'll hold her and keep her accountable for a book launch in December this year as well.
Thank you. I need that. See, now you're going to be another accountability buddy.
Yeah, now you're going to do it. But it's been great to have you on the show and just great to connect with you. So stay in touch.
Yes. And thank you so much, Anna. Thank you again for creating an amazing platform for your courage, your vulnerability, and all that you're doing in the world. So appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Your Freedom Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe on iTunes and subscribe on my YouTube channel. And if you want to get more freedom in your life, then come and join Your Freedom Project Facebook group, which the link is below in the comments section. And I am giving you a copy of my visualization manifesting book. So manifest more freedom in your life and live the life of your dreams.
Hey, thank you for listening. Hope you had a blast. Here to elevate your life. It's the Freedom Podcast. Love, money, mind. Love, money, mind. Wanna see you all win. Wanna see you all shine. Just make sure that you subscribe. Bringing good vibes. Join the Facebook group. Now it's time to change your life. Hope you come back. Right now is the chance. This is an experience.